When I was young, just a small boy, my dad was a hero to me. Like all boys, we look up to our fathers, the guider, the protector, the one to go to when things weren't right. But in time, that changed, as it changes for all boys. I could not see his flaws when I was that young. No boy can. Our worldview is small at that time because we are small. But as we grow, our worldview grows. And in time, we see the flaws of our father. And as more time passes, we find ourselves needing to stretch our wings, step out from our father's shadow. And in time, that causes anger, frustration on both sides. We disappoint them, but there's no other way. To step out from the Father's shadow, you must disappoint them, and even anger them at times. It's a story as old as time, something that plays out for every father and son. But the ironic thing about that is, as we grow, as we become an adult, this world pressures us and says, men do not cry. Men do not show their emotions. We do not talk about certain things. And that social pressure and expectation is passed on from father to son. Sometimes spoken, sometimes unspoken. But in time, that expectation means that the son doesn't always share with the father things that are going on, the struggles he has. And that silence grows until it is deafening, until the small child in the man can scream into the void. And yet, the silence is so deafening that the message never leaves the man's lips. No one ever knows about the small child inside who misses his father, misses his hero, that wishes that somehow, some way, him and his father could be close again. But instead, so much time has passed, with so much silence accumulating over the years, that the silence has become the space that creates more silence. Until the silence has become larger than the Grand Canyon, where no bridge can cross. And as the father ages and reaches near the end of his life, all the son wants is to still be his independent self that he has grown into, but yet still somehow meet the approval of his father, which is impossible, because the father had all those expectations of what his son would grow up to be and what he would grow up to be like. But those were delusions, because in order for the son to have independence and grow into his own man, those expectations would not allow for that. It would make the son more slave than his own man. And so now, I find myself in the same position that my father found himself, and sons and fathers have found themselves for generations upon generations, for as old as time. The silence has become the silence that creates the space that now creates the silence. And when my dad dies, I am doomed to repeat his same situation. When I was little and we went to the hospital when my grandfather was dying, my dad came out. He was devastated, and he looked down to me and he said, I never really got to be close with my father, even though I always wanted it. And somehow, we just grew apart. My dad carried the same burden I carry now. And as my father is reaching the end of his life, I wonder, maybe it's a good thing I never had a son, as much as it hurts, as much as it burdens me to not have ever had a son. Because at least I can break the generational problem that every son and father has, where they long to be close to their father, but they cannot, because the father they knew as a small child, that hero that would swoop in and fix everything, he never really existed. It was just we were too small to see the whole picture, to see how fundamentally flawed our fathers were. And then, to make matters worse on top of all of that, all sons don't want to be like their father. They want to step out from behind their dad's shadow and stretch their wings and fly. But most of us end up being so much like our father that the parts of ourselves that we do not like are the parts that are exactly like our father's. But yet, the parts of ourselves we do like, oftentimes, are also like our father. What I would give to cross that Grand Canyon, what I would give to be able to connect with him, to have the bond and the relationship we never really had. But yet, at this point, that is impossible. It would be easier to turn lead into gold than it would be to pick up the phone and talk to my father.